Thank you. I'm gonna get straight into it. I wrote this poem for my son, um, but I'm not gonna tell him this poem until he reaches 10 years old. So, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why afterwards. This poem is called Ocean View. Men should not cry. That is what is told to boys because tears are no longer gender neutral. They are female. And boys should be boys. Because they will grow up to be men and men need to act like men, but what is a man? I mean, it makes sense, right? A man shouldn't cry if he is being crushed by the world. He should stiffen his lips, bite his tongue, proceed to eat a limb whilst he's limp and stand up even though he can't stand no more. Because crying, well, that just brings out the inner bitch. And we all know that means a female dog. You see, there it goes, there's that gender again. So if I cry, not only will I be a female, but I'll be a pup. So no matter if life is burning around me, I should stay charred. Not use my tears to cool down the burns because apparently men don't cry. They simply brush it away like nothing happened. How do you brush off wounds that are stitched together with pain? Wounds that are smoked to the fumes of depression? You see, these wounds get bigger and bigger and bigger whilst my tear ducts get smaller and smaller until there's nothing but evaporated tears that are mixed with clouds of rain. Because I can't cry, so I might as well let the clouds do it. Because when I was young, I was taught that men don't cry. I was taught that man up isn't just a phrase, it's a part of your growing cycle. And to be a man, you must cycle through every obstacle in life whilst restraining your complaints and calm your inner center because you're not a call center. You see, I was told that nobody needs to hear your words unless they're words of wisdom and how being a man means you stiffen up your shoulders because you got a burden to carry. Those complaints are simply noises that cannot be comprehended because your tears don't mean shit when you have to grow some balls. You see, these apparent womanly traits are not just treats. They are bullshit ideologies passed down by society to make you believe in a perception of what a man should be. Men. Teaching men how to be men is a complex compounded phrase that has compounded toxicity into its meaning. You see, you were born into this world crying, therefore crying is nothing but a simple form of communication. Crying is nothing but a feel-good chemical that can electrify even the darkest of shades. You don't need to stay sunken. You're a Titan, not the Titanic. You are not empty, you are empathy. You are not what society tells you to be because men are allowed to cry. Men can cry out. So far out that it spreads into the corners of this world. You see, I let my corneas enter the corners and cry until I'm dehydrated and hydrate myself with smiles and detoxify from toxins of masculine fakery. Your tears are pools of oceans untouched. Discover what your tears mean and translate them to words. You see, your tears are the antidote against toxins of masculinity. And to those that don't believe you, well, they're not ready to hear your tears. So cry. Because boys get sad too. And men's tears are just a normal form of expression. Thank you. So my name is Mr. Samuel. I'm probably going to change my stage name very soon to my real name because I'm starting to understand what it means. And I feel like I can only really portray that to people once I fully understand what it means. So I go by the name Mr. Samuel for now. My next poem is called Through the Keyhole, and I wrote it during lockdown and I never really performed it because I didn't feel comfortable enough until I had a conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago. So content warning, this is about domestic violence, but it's viewed through something that we all have in our houses that if could speak would tell you many stories. So this piece is called Through the Keyhole. They say he's a man, but what does that really mean? Because I can see from a third party without a third eye that statement only applies to pride. Yet he feels he should be a man every time Well, every time. Every time he's knocked down, he lays next to me, feeling less of a man. Abuse is genderless, and yet he still feels like he is a part of the plan. The bumps on his skin are like bumps in the road, and he can't see his relationship matches. Well, let's not talk about the matches. As he decided he wanted to put a mark on his relationship, started a spark that ignited love into his relationship, it was never reciprocated. She thought about lighting the flame from a different angle, reclined at each thought of his and bruised every sense of manhood until the man in the hood was hidden under covers. I really wish I could help him sit right, but he barely sits upright. And after every conversation, he's made to feel like he isn't right. His point doesn't come across. Yet she's pointing me at him, and I'm sure I'm gonna come across. But that's the point. His values to her are pointless. He just wants her to point less, talk more, work it out, absorb all, move together with one objective. But how do you do this when you're only seen as the object? Even me looking on from the outside, I still feel like I'm the object. I want to scream out to help out. Yet I wasn't created for that purpose. I'm there to comfort the aftermath, have him sink into me. I will cushion his body whilst he tries to repair his soul, scrape every stain of his residue off the walls that she used for plastering. She wants the IKEA quick fix, but there's no quick fix that I can see in this relationship. Because every domestic isn't so domestic when there's violence involved. Led him to believe that every house is a home. Distorted the roof of his dome until his domain became a nightstand of night terrors. Head boarded up with so much pain that even if he was to address the issue, he still wouldn't be able to call his house a home. So I decided to wrap my arms around him. Heavy is the head when it's constantly held with palms. I let his arm rest on my arm rest, because I can see he's arm wrestling with every emotion, and I was not a gauze to stop the cause of internal leakage of emotions unstable. It's not only the physical, it's the verbal abuse that circled the loop and internal noose and strangled the stronghold of him. You ever played duck duck goose when someone's throwing pans, throwing pains? He hopes she would take it away when really he's the one in pain. Because he's been a slave in a trade where his emotions are stocks and bonds, stockpiled and bonded to any scheme driven that shrinks walls and lowers ceilings, empties cupboards. He's been stripped of who he is and made to feel like he's nothing, unfurnished, only to be built up in the image of his abuser, where their gospel becomes your Bible on a table of demons. Do you understand the scheme? Or are you still looking through transparent windows claiming your eyesights are opaque, while the insidious insight gives you a clear view of the inside? Do you know how many times he's had to dress up the issue, drawn a closed curtain to the world, left his smile on the desk next to the blood stains and fallen tears because he feels that victim doesn't equal man? So he mirrored the image that men cannot be a victim. Nearly half of male victims fail to tell anyone about their domestic abuse. And I'm the one that has to carpet the fool, so at least he feels that there's softer ground to lie on, possibly to die on. I'm the one like many that sits on the sidelines because I never had a mouth to speak, eyes to see, ears to hear. But I feel it. Every time he gets knocked down, I feel it. So far, he doesn't know it yet, that I've been in this corner all along. Headstrong but don't know how to call out. Pillow talks aren't the same anymore. My view is so in scope, but my actions are colder than a freezer. And if I could ever animate my inanimate state, I could tell you the truth between the lies. The violence that runs through the pipes and showers down on his head whilst he bathes in his own blood, but still sees that colour as love. You see, male victims are over 3 times as likely not to tell anyone about their abuse. A statistic that he's fallen into. And I really wish that I could stop it before it started, but you see all along in this poem, I'm just furniture. Every single action that happened around me, I saw it because I'm his furniture. Even though I've seen it all, I'm unable to talk about it, so I need you to shout about it. Decrease every statistic so the beatings and numbers fall just as fast as the scabs that left his body to show you a trail of his former self. Every single piece of furniture that viewed the furnace of this abuse is crying out for you to see domestic abuse as abuse and not categorized into gender. A bruise isn't the same as genitalia, and statistics are only viewed if people cry out. I wish you could see it from my point of view. Then maybe that 1 in 3 might turn into 1 in 2, then decrease even further until abuse. There's nothing but a word in a book full of dead languages instead of dead bodies. Thank you. Alright, so my last poem, my last poem is a little bit different. I want to lift it up a little bit I feel like we need to channel the inner child within us at all times, because children are innocent, right? And adults are tainted by society's truth and society's lies. So I really want you guys to look within yourselves on this one. This is my last poem. I'll be Mr. Samuel. Thank you very much. I need discipline, because there's a child in me that wants to break free. Shackled by the bondage of adulthood, the child in me is deleting all aspects of adulthood that do not stabilize my mental stability. You see, the adult in me feels like it needs to conform to society in order to survive. But the child in me is screaming for nurture. It's time I got she understand that the child in me is just as important as the adult. Warring with your inner child may leave you sunken, defenseless. No need to battle ships when you could develop armadas in order to connect for the sake of your mental survival. Yet at times it feels like I'm always searching these words in a word search of puzzles, leaving me at the crossroad trying to crossword. Fucking hell, my mind feels like it's been scrabbled.